Am I the asshole for going to the front of the line for lab test since I had an appointment? Context: since I live in Canada, anybody can go get lab test done for free. Most people do walk in, but you can make appointments. Earlier today I went to get my lab test done, and I made an appointment for right when they open. I get there earlier and there was already a big line going around the hallway of people waiting doing walk-in. Since I had an appointment and the doors weren't open yet, I just stood by the front and walked in when they opened the doors. One guy in the line makes a remark saying, "This guy is cutting in," which I don't respond to, but then I get inside and I see everyone is lined up in the appointment line. There is 2 lines with a sign saying, "Appointment left" and "Walk in" on the right. So I go up to the front and ask if everyone is there for appointment, which everyone in that line said no, so I was like, okay, I am gonna stand here and wait till they call me up. I also mentioned to the guy that this line was for appointments only. He then gets mad at me saying I should be at the back of the line, all the way down the hallway, no matter if I have an appointment. I tell him no, there's 2 lines for a reason and I get priority. He starts getting angry and raising his voice, saying the same thing over and over until the people at reception tell him that appointment has priority and it doesn't matter. I didn't want to start anything, but I get called up right away anyway and go get my lab work done, no problem. Was I an asshole for just cutting through? I understand some people do wait a long time to try to get in first, but there's 2 lines for a reason and anybody can make appointments if the time is available. I made that apportionment 6 weeks ahead of time. Not the asshole. I get annual blood work in the US and I go online and make an appointment. Say my appointment is for 8 a.m. I roll in at 7:55 and get taken almost immediately and am back in my car driving away no later than 8:10. Everyone has the same ability to go on the website and make an appointment. It's not a special reserved thing, they just didn't. Not the asshole. That's kinda the point of appointments. Not your fault you took the time to set up an appointment to skip the line. This is like the DMV. They encourage people to set up an appointment so you don't have to wait X hours to get called. Until the people at reception tell him that appointment has priority and it doesn't matter. Well, there's your answer. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. That guy was absolutely in the wrong. It sounds like the signage indicating there are separate lines for walk-ins and appointments was clear as fucking day. It's not your fault they were not lining up properly. Not the asshole. The labs I've used always have multiple signs saying appointments take precedence over walk-ins. Life Labs is like that. Some take appointments and walk in, some are appointment only and others are walk-ins only. I'm one of the idiots that always forgets to make an appointment and ends up waiting 90 minutes. Good for you. Definitely not Ta. Am I the asshole for letting my daughter attend a Halloween party her stepsister is being excluded from? My ex-wife and I share 2 kids. Our daughter is 15 and our son is 13. We divorced 11 years ago and we share custody of the kids, 50-50. My ex is remarried and she has a stepdaughter in her home the same age as our daughter. My ex and her husband have tried to make the kids close, but especially the 2 girls because they're the same age. This has not worked. I know from my kids' time with me that they have zero closeness to her, and my daughter in particular doesn't like her stepsister. From speaking to my ex about issues in the past, I know her stepdaughter has trouble with other kids liking her and she gets excluded by them more frequently than she's included by others. This was something my ex wanted me to address with our kids before. My daughter and her best friend were invited to a Halloween party. This year the kids are with me for Halloween, so she asked me for permission to go. I spoke to the hosting parent and I felt like it was safe for my daughter to go under the circumstances. My ex discovered I have given our daughter permission to go and she was furious. She asked why I hadn't offered to take her stepdaughter to begin with because she learned I was dropping the girls off and picking them up. Then she mentioned her stepdaughter was excluded from the party and that every other kid in their grade is included. She felt that this meant our daughter should not be attending either in support of her stepsister. She tried to forbid me from allowing our daughter to go. I told her it wasn't a decision she could make. She argued that I should be encouraging a supportive sibling dynamic between the girls and that it seems like our kids only support each other and not their stepsister, who they've known for more than half their lives. My ex told me I'll be a real asshole to a 15-year-old girl if I let our daughter go to this party. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your daughter is her own person. If she wants to go to a party, has your permission and you are her guardian for that period, then you are in the right to allow her to go there. You aren't encouraging any bullying or discrimination of your ex's stepdaughter, and you certainly wouldn't be encouraging any supportive sibling dynamics between the girls by punishing your daughter by not allowing her to go. Not the asshole. I can understand why your ex-wife is struggling with this situation. It's hard to raise children under the same roof who are having 2 very different social experiences at school. But punishing your daughter for that isn't going to magically make the situation better, it's just going to further the gap between the 2 of them. Encouraging a supportive dynamic between the girls goes both ways, but it can be as simple as your daughter acknowledging that this is likely tough for her stepsister and remaining kind to her in the home. Wait, didn't I read your daughter got an invitation? She can't just bring along a gaggle of friends without invitations to the party. Not the asshole. This is a non-issue. What your ex is trying to do will backfire spectacularly. If your daughter is punished because her stepsister isn't invited, she will only hate her more. I understand that it sucks watching one of your kids being excluded. But being a helicopter parent and trying to force a group to accept them is only going to make it worse for her. She needs to focus on helping the girl make her own friends. And the Brady Bunch is not real, for crying out loud. I doubt anyone ever truly accepted a stepfamily from being pressured to play happy family. At most the kids will suffer in silence until they are old enough to escape. Ha ha ha, of course you are not the asshole. Your ex's brain must be exploding trying to make this sound reasonable. If she has a point with her SD being excluded, then she should take it up with the organizers. Note that your daughter's power is limited. She cannot make the stepdaughter popular. Groups do not work that way, teenagers doubly so. It's a string situation. You can't push a string. The mother cannot push that string, and neither can your daughter. Not the asshole. Prepare for 3 years from now when your daughter lives with you full time. Your daughter needs a parent that actually cares about her needs. She needs friends. Your ex is trying to get your daughter to put her stepsister first. Every time she does that, she is pushing your daughter away. Your son is witnessing this behavior. Am I the asshole for refusing a wedding even when my mom offered to pay? My wife, 25 female, and I, 27 male, eloped about a month ago after being engaged for 7 months. We had talked a lot about what we wanted, and while neither hated the idea of a wedding, we had our own reasons for preferring to avoid it. For my wife, she has a lot of interfamily conflict on her side and didn't want the pain of choosing who to invite in order to minimize any potential bad behavior and issues for us. For me, it was also family related, but more the expectations. My mom remarried when I was 19, more than 15 years after my dad died, and she became a stepmom of several very young kids, all under 8 at the time. While I get along okay with the steps, I don't have a close relationship with them. But I knew they would want to be included in the wedding in some way, and I knew my mom would want them to be treated like my siblings. I knew her husband was almost definitely going to expect that they would be treated as if they were my blood siblings I was raised with. I knew I didn't want to do this, especially in terms of groomsmen, women, and so eloping felt like the best way to avoid conflict from that. After we got back, I realized how right I was, because 3 of the kids had expected to be bridesmaids and groomsmen and had looked at outfits or practiced, even though I never asked or even mentioned this. My mom was upset when we announced we had gotten married. She asked about a wedding, and I told her we felt it was better for us to elope. I said it saved us a lot of money and time. She told me she always wanted to see me get married. Then she offered to pay for us to have a real wedding. I told her it was a kind offer but not needed. She told me it would mean so much to everyone and the kids could be in the wedding like they wanted. She could see me get married and we'd all be together as a family to celebrate, and it's what they wanted the most. She told me her husband was even willing to pitch in. Again, I said no thank you, and my mom told me I should at least consider it and ask my wife. She told me we denied ourselves a wedding when we got married, but there's no reason to when all expenses would be paid. Her husband suggested I do it for the kids who were really hurt when I got married and didn't include them in it at all, even though they had really wanted to be involved. Am I the asshole? The manipulation alone made me want to scream for you. Your mom is ridiculous. Not once is her offer to help pay for your wedding about you, but about her stepkids being unhappy. Not once did it come across about it being about you and your wife, but about her and her family. Eloping was the way to go. Good for you for knowing your worth and prioritizing your marriage. Tell your mom and stepdad to save the money they want to use for your second wedding for their kids. You're already married. Don't give in. If you set the precedent now, they will expect this throughout your marriage. Why isn't you, siblings, godparents, etc.? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Elopement is a wedding. You are now married and there is no reason to hold another ceremony. I wish you all the best for your future. Smile. Not the asshole. You had the wedding you wanted. It's understandable that family may be a bit upset at not seeing this, but it's not about them. And it's presumptuous for them to assume your stepsiblings would be in the wedding party without asking. Not the asshole. Your mom and your stepfather don't get to manipulate you just because they wanted a big wedding for clout so they could show off and force you to put your step-siblings into your wedding party. You had the wedding you wanted, and ultimately that's what it comes down to. Them being upset is their problem and they need to get over it. If they're going to carry on and turn this into a thing, then maybe you're better off being low, no contact, as they need to get over themselves. Not the asshole. Your wedding, your choice. Eloping is fine. She told me we denied ourselves a wedding when we got married, but there's no reason to when all expenses would be paid. Her husband suggested I do it for the kids who were really hurt when I got married and didn't include them in it at all even though they had really wanted to be involved. This is ridiculous. Your wedding is for you, not a playdate for them and their kids. Not the asshole. If they want a wedding that badly, they can throw one for themselves and all the kids can be the wedding party. Am I the asshole for skipping over a pram in the queue? I, F26, had an interaction today that made me question if I was in the wrong or not. In an extremely busy secondhand games and DVD shop, CEX for those in the UK, today, peak time on a Saturday afternoon in a very busy shopping center, I was waiting in a queue to be served that was so long and cramped that it was wrapping into other aisles. I must have waited in this queue for around 10 minutes before making it almost to the front. A mother ahead of me had parked her baby's pram at the first spot in the line, and then left the line to another aisle to browse. The employee at the till called for the next customer and locked eyes directly with me, and with the mother not in the line and nowhere to be seen. After a couple of seconds I walked ahead to be served. About a minute into my transaction, the employee next to the one serving me called for their next customer, and the mother walked up and glared at me and immediately said with an angry tone that I was next in line, just so you know. I was actually taken aback by how annoyed she sounded and looked when she said this. I finished my transaction and responded that she should have been in the line next time. As I walked out of the shop she told me to fuck off. Lol. Now, I'm not sure if I was the asshole for going ahead of her as she seemed to genuinely be seething about it, but I didn't want to wait any longer for her and she had technically left the line. What do you think? You kiss your baby with that mouth, is what I'd have said as I left. That poor child. Can you imagine how much manufactured drama they'll witness growing up? She's the only asshole here, in that the store employee made eye contact with you and said, next. If you'd skipped the line that employee would have told you. She wasn't there, and walked away from her child expecting strangers to keep an eye on it for her and began seething for getting checked out one person later? Again, that poor child. Not the asshole. You cannot be next if you are not, in fact, in the line. And especially if you are next in the K, you definitely don't leave no matter how long it's taking. That being said, if the store was small, tight and she was within a distance where you could see her speak in a normal voice, it would have been good manners of you to signal, tell her and let her go. Not the asshole. Leaving someone, baby in a pram, child or adult, to hold your place in line who is not prepared to start the transaction and complete it in your absence while you go browse doesn't cut it. Not the asshole. Left the line to another aisle to browse. Back of the line. Not the asshole at all. You don't get to leave the line and come back to your same spot. You sure as hell can't use a baby to save your spot lol. Not the asshole. Well then maybe you should have actually been in said line.